We got a crazy story. Apparently, a Seattle woman took the life of her father over some argument. Now, what's interesting here is that initially this was reported as a woman overwhelmed on election day taking the life of her father. This happened on November 5th, so we didn't have the results just yet. And the news outlets that initially reported this, the news outlet Kiro 7, has removed references to the election, despite the fact that I believe it's Seattle Times has retained. This is Seattle Times, this bit of information. It may be that this woman was overwhelmed by the constant press, the constant media, and her brain snapped. I don't think this is a story of a woman who was upset that Donald Trump won, because they say this happened on November 5th. But what I find fascinating is the initial reporting, a confirmed statement that the woman said something was important about the election day, got upset, and then took the life of her father. This is in Seattle. So it does sound like there is a possibility. This is the story of a woman who, leftist liberal living in Seattle, was frantic over what was going to happen, snapped, and took it out on her dad. I think if you were to ask me, based on what we've seen so far and the statement made, that is the likely conclusion. But let me read for you the story here so you can get the gist of it. Seattle man kills father with ice axe after arguing over keeping lights off on election day, court docs. A 33-year-old Seattle woman killed her father with an ice axe after the pair got into an argument over keeping the lights off on election day, prosecutors alleged last week. Corey Burke, who appeared to be having a mental health crisis, is accused of taking the life of her father, 67, inside their Seattle home around 8 p.m. last Tuesday. King County prosecutors wrote in charging docs obtained by the Post. So I will stress, at 8 p.m., we did not know how things were going. To be fair, I think we were starting to get a good picture and things were looking well for Donald Trump. Outside of that, we had the polls, we had the speculation, and the betting markets all heavily favored for Trump. I'm going to say it. I think there is a decent probability this woman was suffering massive anxiety and a mental health issue related to the likelihood that we all saw Trump was inching towards a win. She gets into a fight with her dad because he won't turn the lights off. And that's it. A trigger. She snaps. They say authorities spotted Corey leaving the house in Rainier Valley with blood on her face after she allegedly broke windows in the home. When police went inside, they found her dad's body with wounds to his head and torso, including a 2-inch laceration to his rib cage. Horrifying story. Now, here's what we have from Seattle Times. This is where it's interesting. They say, the next day at the hospital, Corey Burke told police she used the axe, not her father. Documents state she believed there was something important about Election Day and that she felt overwhelmed with emotion. Corey stated when her father started arguing with her about the lights being shut off, she freaked out. At one point, the woman reportedly whispered to the detective that she said, quote, "I killed him." Corey Burke reported that she had been working on setting emotional boundaries with her father. She wanted to help people change their attachment to their parents, but that she felt hyper-focused and disorganized about her own father. After she killed him, Corey Burke reported she went upstairs and broke the windows of the house as an act of liberation. This is crazy. In the police report, the detective noted Corey Burke did not seem fit to take care of herself, and she was a danger to property and herself. She's being held this week at King County Jail. Now, take a look at this. When you Google search the story, this is what it was. What was initially reported: woman overwhelmed by election killed father with ice axe in Rainier Valley. This is Kiro 7 News Seattle. But take a look at this. 2 hours later, Seattle woman accused of killing father with ice axe after argument about lights. I got a question for you guys. Why is this national news that the New York Post picks it up and it ends up in a bunch of different outlets? My Northwest, Seattle Times, Fox 13, local outside Get. Why is it being picked up and why are we hearing about it? I'm going to tell you, my friends. I'm going to tell you. Here's what I think. I think the initial reporting is likely correct. The windows are all smashed out. This woman was probably beaten down and badgered over the past year by the fascism, Hitler. She's panicking, she's freaking out, and she is entrenched in a social media world of apocalypse. You ever see that video of the woman? She's like, "We are losing our democracy!" Ah! She screams, "What's wrong?" That, I believe, is what's happening to these people. In this instance, I don't see a reality based on what's been reported so far, where this woman is sitting there and her dad's like, "I want the lights on." And she goes, "Okay, I am now going to explode into a rage for no reason." No, I think this woman is on social media being fed this algorithm. She's probably arguing not about the lights. She's arguing like, this is important. We have to watch. Turn the lights off. Turn the TV on. What's happening? What's happening? Something is important. Today matters. She's overwhelmed and she snaps. And this is what you get. Let me tell you about the future. Let me tell you about the future, my friends. Now, I want to stress this is all speculative and it may be nothing. The reason this story may be national is because it was initially reported as election related. She did say something about the election, but maybe it's just some crazy woman. She's 30 living with her dad. Maybe she's just nuts. I think that's a fair assessment. I think the election may have played a role in a person who is mentally unstable. But this is the point about the future. Mentally unstable will be driven mad. Understand this. Everything is algorithmic. When you go on social media, you are surrounded by people of a certain political persuasion and they're constantly posting things. If you are not diversifying your news diet, you are going to be trapped in this psychotic paranoid delusion. Imagine someone who's 10 years old. They get on Facebook, they get on TikTok or Instagram. The algorithm then feeds them a video about police brutality or Donald Trump being a fascist. They say, what's this? And they watch it. The algorithm machine then says, hey, they watched this video about Trump being a fascist, send them more. It doesn't differentiate between the content they're getting, whether it's healthy or not. They just keep sending you more of what you like. So this 10-year-old kid gets on TikTok, or let's say Instagram or whatever it may be. And let's say this is 10 years ago. They're now 20 years old, and the only thing they have ever heard on social media is that Trump is a fascist, and it's the apocalypse, Hitler 2.0. What can we do? This woman, I believe, was 33 years old. So imagine this. It's 2024. She's 33. She's 5 years younger than me. Let's say 20 years ago in 2004, she's 13 years old. She is not yet on social media or doing anything. A couple years goes by. She is now on Facebook. This is around the time we saw the massive increase in intersectionality, racism, all of that stuff pop up. She's now 15, 16 years old. She goes on Facebook and she is just slammed every single day. Fascism, 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 racism. That's all she sees. She never sees the heroic video of the cop saving puppies. She never sees the video of the firefighter saving puppies. She only ever sees Republican bad, fascism, police brutality, Black Lives Matter, because the algorithm is just pumping it out. And you can see the numbers in the graphs. Then along comes Trump. And now, so we're saying what? It's 2007. She's getting on social media, and it's hypothetical. She's 16. And then you get Trump 8 years later. She's 24. And here is the embodiment of everything she was warned about. And she's thinking to herself, how could this be possible? For my entire life, the only thing I have ever seen is fascism, racism. All of this is bad. And then what happens? Trump wins. Then for the next 8 years, it never stops. Everything online, screaming at the top of your lungs. And guess what? Trump's back. He's back. This is a woman's entire life. Since she was a little kid, the only thing she's seeing. I'm not saying I am profiling her. This is what I'm saying. This is a very, very, very real possibility that it exists, that young people get trapped in these bubbles and grow up in this hyper-partisan extremist reality. And then Trump's return. The betting markets are saying he's going to win. He's winning in the polls. Imagine if your whole life you learned of this great evil, let's just say the devil himself, and then evidence emerged that he was about to win. The devil himself was standing before you. That's basically what she's seeing. It's basically religious. And she's sitting there, wound up, tight as can be, shaking and freaking out. And her dad comes in and says, turn the lights back on. I keep turning. And she just goes, ah! That's kind of how I see it. That's what I see here. The machine is driving people insane. Now, pause. The reality is these news outlets may have jumped the gun on relating this to the election. And it may just be a crazy woman who was crazy. That's it. These things happen. But at what point is it impossible to distinguish? At what point is it going to be that a person's whole reality is built upon the fake news media machine, and the delusions that she suffers are related to a mechanism, social media, big tech, and the corporate press lying to her? So when she does snap, it's because she lived in this paranoid delusional state. I mean, they're starting to wake up. MSNBC is starting to wake up. We'll cover that in another segment. But you tell me, because I got to say, maybe it's just nothing. Maybe it's just nothing. Maybe it's just a crazy person, and a story like this about a domestic violence thing doesn't need to be national news. Probably. But it makes me wonder, are they changing the story now because they're concerned about an escalation of violence? Or maybe they jumped the gun with clickbait and they were wrong. I'll leave it there. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Become a member over at timcast.com. More segments to come, and we'll see you all in the next segment.